Alright guys, for today's video, I just wanted to change tracks a little bit. I want this channel to be like a place where we could talk about more than just like, how not to be fat. I want this to be a place where we can like talk about how to focus on our goals, or to be more driven, or to be happier, and doing all those things while not being fat. So in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about how I smash my own personal goals using a simple process that I think you guys are going to like. In my system, I found that any kind of personal goal you have should have these 4 following things. Let's go. Alright, first and foremost, you should really think about the goal in terms of, is it feasible? Now, when I say feasible, I mean is this goal something that's truly doable? For instance, if it's a big goal, something like oh, I'm gonna make $1 million, or I'm gonna win the Indy 500 or something like that. Your best bet would be for something to make it more feasible, to break it down into smaller, more manageable things like that. For a more realistic example, let's say I'm going to start riding my bike, or maybe I'm going to start journaling or something like that. I mean, it could be really used for anything. Now, the next step for the goal process is this thing active? Now, when I mean active, I mean you should set a goal that focuses on doing something rather than stopping something. In my personal experience, it's much better to try and set a goal that has you either adding a new behavior, or maybe modifying a current behavior you have, things like that. So for instance, before we just talked about biking or journaling, things like that. Those are things that are an added behavior. Creating a goal that's trying to stop a behavior often leads to what I call the all or nothing approach, which means if you do slip up and start doing the behavior you wanted to stop, we tend to just kind of give up and then just go back to doing what we wanted to stop doing. Things like I'm going to quit smoking, where it's you just deciding I'm not smoking. So then let's say you find yourself in a situation and you start smoking, and then you're all right, whatever. And then there you are smoking again. All right, the third step that we should check for this goal is the goal relevant? Now, when I mean relevant, I mean is this something you even want to do? There's no point in setting a personal goal for yourself if you really don't want to do it, So make sure you actually do want to go biking, or you do actually plan on wanting to journal or something along those lines. Whatever your goal is, these are just examples. Now, if it's not something that you really want to do but feel you should do, then the next step is that much more important. And that step is making sure that the goal is set up so that it's trackable. And in terms of trackable, I mean set a specific time frame, either when you plan on being finished with the goal, or when you're gonna check up on the goal. For instance, with biking, maybe keep a personal calendar, and every time you go biking, just write in the calendar okay, I went today for X amount of time, or for X amount of distance, whichever, however system you work out. Or if you do get in the process of journaling, maybe once a month you go back and you read all your old entries to see how much has changed, or if you actually do feel you're getting any kind of benefit out of the journaling process. But definitely make sure you set up, when you start the goal, a specific time frame on how you're going to check up on it. Another good trick to do when we're in the talks of tracking and time frames is, when you make the goal, try and be as specific as possible with the goal. When you're biking, saying I'm going to bike every weekday after work at 6 o'clock, or I'm going to journal after dinner, blah blah blah. You know what I mean. Just try and set up a specific thing with very little wiggle room or leeway, because there's going to be a lot of mental bargaining you're going to do, where you'll be I'll do it tomorrow, whatever. So if you set it up ahead of time, it's much more easy to be consistent in doing it. All right, just to do a quick recap on what we just talked about. 1, make sure the goal is feasible, which means it's something possible to do and broken up into smaller chunks. Make sure the goal is active, which means you're actually adding an activity as opposed to taking away an activity. Make sure the goal is relevant, in that you actually want to do it, or it's something that suits your interests. And make sure the goal is trackable, which means it's set in a specific time frame on how you're going to check it and when you're going to do it. Alright guys, so that's how I set my personal goals. I make sure I follow these 4 simple steps. And a quick way to remind yourself is, if the goal doesn't fart, then it's probably shit. Hey guys, be sure to hit like and subscribe down below. That helps a lot with this channel. And also be sure to leave any comments about any suggestions for future videos, or if you want to talk about some personal goals you have and how maybe we could help getting this thing going. Alright, thanks.